Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
Is it just me, or has winter really hit hard here in the South?
I mean, if it's below 60, it's tough for me.
Oh my gosh, I don't mind a little cool weather, but I hate the snow and I hate below freezing. Just give me the heat, baby.
Right. Yeah, we'll stick with that because that's positive.
Yes. I'm a positive.
I'd rather have 100 degrees than 55. So that's just me.
Okay, fair enough.
A lot of people are like that.
Oh, so what do you want to talk about today?
I don't know. We can talk about feelings if you want.
Isn't that a song?
I feel like cold is terrible, right?
Okay.
Heat is good, right?
Okay.
No, I think I've read a lot of interesting books recently. I know you have as well. A lot of psychology related books that look at, how people are thinking and, what children, what kind of things affect kids and, whether it's in a home situation from the point of view of electronics or relationships with other kids or, whatever, right? There's a lot of feelings there. Sometimes there's big issues, right?
Yeah.
Surrounding, parents getting divorced, and that's kind of a big issue.
Sure.
Sometimes it's smaller issue, like they just didn't get along with that friend today, but it seems like it's a massive issue. And it's really like tomorrow's another day and it's probably going to be fine. We deal with that as teachers, right? Like there's kids who will break down crying over what we know to be something very little. However, we can have empathy enough that when we were kids, we knew that was kind of a big deal to us as well, right? Because you don't have the perspective of life. We could dive a little bit more into something like that. I've recently read some books, and I know we've talked about it, about the brain development and and how brains work. And so I'm just kind of wondering, is it different for kids than it is for adults?
Well, okay, good questions all the way around. And to answer your question, our brain is continuously developing from the moment of conception through birth and after that. It begins with the basic animal part, what they call the animal parts.
Right.
Your amygdala and your anyway, I'm not an expert.
So you're not a brain surgeon.
I am not a brain surgeon, but it starts with the little pieces at the bottom of the brain. And then as our brain grows, as our body develops, our brain grows until we're about, they're a little bit of an argument, but on average, most people will say by 25. And usually,
which is why insurance rates for cars go down at 25.
Yeah.
We make better decisions.
Well, in theory. But our prefrontal cortex is the last to develop. And that's mostly our rational reasoning part of our brain. And one of the things that I've learned is through that we as adults can help our kids develop moving forward. And as we're young, as we're little,
right,
a lot of things, and you brought this up, a lot of the things that we feel can seem like massive issues,
right,
that we as adults looking at our 4, 5, 7, 12-year-old, even, our age, dealing with teenagers, the issue, that's not that big of a deal, not that big of a deal. Well, it's not that big of a deal to you and I, but to them it is. And so there's a blog I'd run across addressing actually some of this. A guy by the name of Dr. Lawrence Cohen had he did a blog, and this guy's a well-known author.
Okay.
He's written a variety of books dealing with how we as parents can help kids take these emotions and understand these big emotions, and how we can help them process. Because the attachment theories that are out there suggest that if we can help our kids grow to be emotionally well-adjusted into adulthood,
right,
helping them understand these little things, be that they are little things, don't dismiss them, is to their benefit. And so, one of the things is, again, understanding child brain development. And we have our right brain and our left brain. And our right brain says that these are a lot of our emotions. Our logic is on the left side.
Okay.
And if we understand, and this goes all the way through life, when we are going through a strong emotional event, it is our right brain is controlling so much to the point that our left brain shuts down, that our logic doesn't come to play. That's why a lot of times if you get into an argument with somebody and you're not having it's hard to make a good, solid argument, rational responses, because your emotions have taken over and as they become more enraged, it shuts down the left side of your brain, which is your logical, argumentative side.
Which is why debaters have to practice.
Yes.
Right. You have to practice so that you can shut out the emotion, right?
Yes.
And just deal with the topic and the data.
And so for a child, that's really, really challenging. And so when they come home from school saying that they had a fight with their best friend and I'm never going to talk to them for the rest of my life.
Until tomorrow.
And so let's talk. So let's talk about this. I'm sure you've gone through some of this, with Charlie as a little kid, with your 3 children, raising them.
I think anybody who's ever seen a temper tantrum has seen this. Or we've done it ourselves, right? One of the things that fascinates me about this is that we have to study how kids think when we were all kids at one time and we all thought this way.
Mm-hmm.
We all had these irrational thoughts, but somehow we don't remember what it was like. So we have to read about it and study it again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is so funny.
We're talking about, and as adults, we can have these kinds of issues. All right. We're at work and our boss comes in and makes a less than friendly suggestion about how to do your job better.
Sure.
And depending on your frame of mind, you can go, oh, thanks. Okay, sure, I can do that. Or you can say, kiss my grits and blow up at them.
I definitely don't recommend that.
I don't either, but that doesn't mean that.
Unless you have another job lined up.
True. And so, again, as adults, we can handle things a little bit better, hopefully, because we've had a lot more experience and we've learned that little things don't have to grow into be big things.
Right.
But little kids don't necessarily have that experience and their brain hasn't fully developed to a point to understand that.
Right.
And so these what you and I would consider a small issue, such as, well, my favorite shirt is in the laundry, or my hair isn't working, or you want to throw in a teenager, acne has shown up. Or for boys, when you're going through the voice change.
Sure.
All right. All of these things can be traumatic. And so it's our job as an adult to work with our children to help them understand that these things, how to process them.
Right.
So they can understand that while they might be big for them at that moment, in the grand scheme of life, they really aren't.
Yeah. So I know that, so we work with, teenagers, obviously, we as high school teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, one of the things that we know as teachers is that, we want to make sure that the kids know that we care about them.
Yes.
Right. And that we hear them, and those kinds of things. And I think that throughout society with adults, there's a lot of sayings that have been used in the past, that maybe aren't quite as, loving towards children as they could be, right? Like children should be seen and not heard.
Yes.
Right. Or suck it up,
yes,
and move on.
Yes.
Get over it. Calm down.
Yes.
These kinds of things are what I would consider to be very dismissive of people's feelings, and the things that they're going through. And so I just wonder, what is the importance of recognizing and showing that child or even another adult, that you care.
It is all of those things. My dad used to say, to my sisters and I that children are to be seen and not heard. And if we want a comment out of you, we'll give you one. So that I get.
Who asked you?
What do you mean?
I'm just saying, like that comment, right?
Oh, yeah. Who asked you?
Right.
Okay.
A kid says something. It's like, who asked you?
Yeah.
Well, they want to contribute too.
Yes. And so that's where I think to an extent, I get what adults are saying. Well, growing up as hearing some of those things, toughen you up. But at the same time, let's talk about this. You don't finding a balance. You don't want to do totally dismiss them, because now the child feels like I can't come to you, and they learn potentially the wrong ways to process these emotions and can generate all kinds of potential future problems. At the same time, if you overcompensate with all empathy, well, then the child may learn some of the wrong issues as well, and finding that ability to have that internal strength to understand as well that, what's a big issue versus what's a small issue. I broke my pencil lead, my pencil broke in half, my crayon broke in half. That's not the end of the world. And so as an adult, understanding, take a look. Okay, that's not a big deal.
Right.
Okay, but don't necessarily say it's not a big deal. Show them why it's not a big deal. If your crayon broke, okay, fine. Can we get another crayon?
Right.
And okay, that's fine. Here's how we can move forward from the broken pencil. We can sharpen it. We can get another pencil.
So I'm definitely not an expert, right? But I feel like from the reading that I've done and talking with you offline, that this kind of ends up being like there's a coping mechanism that takes place to deal with the issue. And then there's now that we've calmed down, we can go to the move on or the consequence, right? So just because you have empathy doesn't mean there's no consequence. Okay. I tell students all the time, there's always a consequence. Everything you do, there's a consequence. Does that mean it's bad? No, there are positive consequences and there are negative consequences. Right? Like you get to choose. Sometimes you don't get to choose. Sometimes there's a negative consequence, and you have to deal with it, but that doesn't dismiss it. That's, you've got to cope with that and then figure out, how do I move forward? Right? Because you can't just camp on it. Kids don't understand that.
There you go. And I think the key thing you just said was you can't camp on it. You can't build a homestead on that one particular feeling, that one particular issue or emotion. And so, yes, coping skills. I'm going to recognize you don't, again, total dismissal of a kid's feelings can be very catastrophic long-term, 20, 30 years later.
Right.
Because most of that stuff does not show up. So I applaud my parents. Many times they would do both of what you're saying. Provide a little empathy, calm you down. Now, let's look at this in a broader picture and just how big of a deal, I put that in air quotes here, was this in the grand scheme of things. But when we go back to that right brain, left brain. When your right brain is totally in charge, then left brain conversations aren't happening. They aren't understood, and they aren't being processed, and they aren't being delivered by you.
Right.
So you've got to get back to that equilibrium where your right brain and left brain are actually collaborating and talking to each other.
I think it also might be important to point out that not every kid is the same. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that I've heard this before from other places, but also my own kids, like, I didn't treat them all exactly the same on everything because they're different people. And sometimes they needed different things. And some of them could, you could be a little bit more, direct and hard with, and others not necessarily, right? They're just not there yet, and it takes longer. So I think it's important to evaluate where your child is, and you can't just have a cookie cutter method of dealing with every person, because not everybody's the same, including your own kids if you have several, or some people have mixed families where they're not even biologically connected, and you can't just assume that everybody's the same and have this is how it's done, right? There's no good. If there was a manual that actually worked, then that would be the bestseller, right?
Sure.
But
absolutely.
There just isn't.
Well, in public speaking, we call it know your audience.
Right.
We do that with our teaching, know your audience.
Right.
And so.
And I have one class period that I might do a little bit different than another because that's what they need.
There you go. And so that's why I say, and that's, again, our role as parents is knowing your child. And we know our children as well as anybody. For you and I as teachers, as me as a professional counselor as well, you've got to also know your role in helping that child. And as you know your role, whether you're a grandparent, whether you're an aunt, an uncle, a godparent, just the neighbor, whatever you might be, you know your role.
Yeah.
And as you know your role, well, then don't overstep your boundaries.
So, I think that the next thing I'm thinking of here is that whether it's an adult, right, like with just understanding my wife for me, or whether it's children, young to teenager, I think that oftentimes we see them having a struggle, and we think that that's what the struggle is about.
Okay.
Right. But it might not be, right? Like they might throw a fit because you changed the channel, but it's not really about you changing the channel. It's about something else. Right. Yeah. So things can be displaced, right? It might be like, whoa, that seems kind of off for you to be upset about that. What else is going on, right? Like we need to have a discussion about what else is it? What's manifesting? What's the cause of that manifestation?
And that's where, again, as adults, however we are with kids, and because, again, all adults have different relationships with children depending on what you do,
right?
What your connection to that child is. And being able to express, don't just say, this is a safe place for us to talk. Demonstrate that this is a safe place,
right?
That we can help them understand the emotion and put the right response to that emotion.
Right.
And as we can do that, then those children learn from that and develop, as you were saying before, the appropriate coping skills that allow children to grow into be young adults, to make it through adolescence and become fully functioning, healthy adults that can move forward with life and be able to handle all the crap that comes at you.
Right.
And again, that's where I don't know that I like it, but I totally understand and agree with it. It truly does take a village to raise a child.
I have to say that, I think I became a much better parent after I became a teacher.
Okay.
And I didn't become a teacher until my last child was like entering high school.
Okay.
So, but being a teacher, right, has taught me a lot of things because, contrary to what might be people's popular belief, students, especially in high school, don't just come in to class in the morning on time, sit down, get all their materials and just say, I can't wait for this lesson in whatever subject it is today. And I'm so eager. That doesn't happen, right? Sometimes they come in and say, can we have a free day? And I say, I don't even know what that is. What does that mean? And then sometimes you have a kid that comes in and they're just like, they put their head down, right? And it's not like because they're bored with class. And that might be the immediate thing of a teacher. It's like, hey, sit up, pay attention, right? But it's more that maybe they had a fight with their parents that morning, right? Maybe something happened to their pet last night. Maybe their grandma's in the hospital. I mean, there could be 1,000 reasons why they're just like distracted and depressed at that moment. And so, the action of I'm not doing the work today, even if it's a defiance, isn't necessarily that, that's not the reason. They don't hate your class. They don't hate your stuff. They just, there's something else going on in their head, in their space. And when we're adults, like we just take the day off.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to go to the beach. I'll hit the whatever, and I'll take my day. And kids don't get to do that because their parents say, go to school. And if you don't go to school, a lot of times you get like truancy. So it's difficult for them to cope with those things. But I think as teachers, we see that displacement more than parents might sometimes.
And again, that's where understanding our role.
Yeah.
I've taken to asking the kids when they're doing that, when they're putting their heads down on the desk. I used to, hey, sleep in somebody else's class. She ain't sleeping in mine.
Right.
And lately I've been taking to going over to, are you okay? Are you feeling sick? Do you need to go see the nurse?
Sure.
And a lot of times, no, I'm okay, McCall. I'm okay. And at which point, it's a polite way of trying to help keep them at least focused on something else. Because when you're distracted by whatever big emotion that is distracting you, it sometimes can be very beneficial to you to be able to put that on a shelf for just a little while and focus on something else.
But so much harder for a kid to do that.
Well, especially if they don't have, I guess, the training. If people in their lives have not been very good at helping them recognize. And even if they have, and even you and I, sometimes when I'm having a crappy day, the best thing for me is to focus on my work.
Sure.
Because that can provide just enough distraction long enough for my emotions to process. It's not dispelling it from your thoughts. They're still there, but giving you just enough of a distraction.
And I think that students do the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's some students who just pour themselves into the day.
Mm-hmm.
And they find peace in coming to school and just doing the stuff and being distracted from those things. And then there's others that come in and they're just completely distracted from the learning because of these things going on in their life. And that, you can say, well, it's too much, it's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. That's just going back to the dismissal thing.
Sure.
But we recognizing that it's displaced and then trying to help them. Oh, okay. If you could just do this thing today, that would be great. Give it a try. Mm-hmm. And, hopefully tomorrow's better. I mean, when it starts to be a daily thing, then we definitely have an issue, but everybody has an off day.
Hey, amen. I mean, when you and I have an off day, and you mentioned this a little bit ago, you and I can take a mental health day.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us at work, we can take use a little PTO, and we can go just detox a little bit. But you're right. Kids don't always have that. And I think as adults, it's good for us,
especially kindergartners, right? Like they're going to school because otherwise you need a babysitter.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If the kindergartner's not going to school, the parent's not having a me day. They're having a kindergartner day.
Yeah, well,
right? So that's a tough thing.
I'll have to tell you about the day I subbed in kindergarten. I did it once.
We could do a whole show on that, I'm sure. I mean, how do parents help in this process? Like what?
Well, part of it is, and I can remember my mom, or my dad too, but a lot of times it was my mom, because I was lucky enough, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And so she earned a lot of money, but she was able to do it at home. Whether it was our big garden, which which helped with, the budget, the food budget,
right?
As well as knowing how to sew clothes, so make clothes or mend clothes, so therefore clothing budget. Anyway, she did a lot of things, and she would be able to easily pick up on my sisters and I. Well, especially me. I don't want to say too much on my sisters, but I can say me. She could read me like a book, and she would go, "Okay, what's wrong? Talk to me." First, it would always be, you come home, "Hey, tell me about your day. What was something good that happened today?"
Mm-hmm.
And then, or if you're angry, you're pissed, you don't want to talk, and if you wouldn't give that kind of response, she would always hit me up with, "Okay, have a seat. Here's an after-school snack. Now tell me what's going on."
Mm.
And that worked out really well, and she was able to ferret out, and then was able to, by me being able to talk it out, she could then, and do like what you have done with me many times when we've talked off air, provide, well, could it be this? Could it be that? You got the empathy going on,
sure,
with other possible explanations than what my mind automatically jumped to.
Right.
And in the process, helped me develop some more of these coping skills. Talk that right brain down out of its emotional high horse to allow the left brain to communicate, to be able to, okay, well, yeah, maybe maybe I did jump off the reservation too hard.
Sure.
I went down the wrong path, and helped me develop, again, these positive coping skills. And as a parent, I think absolutely these are the kinds of things that we can do. And so that's my big deal, helping our children process these big emotions.
Yeah.
Even, again, if they don't seem big to us, they're big to the kid at that time.
So I read somewhere, because, my empathy has been my word lately that I keep bringing up.
Yeah.
But I read somewhere that, empathy is developed very well through reading.
Okay.
And it doesn't even matter what you read, right? So you could be reading novels, you could be reading, historical stuff, and you could read, it's fiction or nonfiction, doesn't make any difference, right? It actually all contributes to empathy. And so, getting kids to read would be a great way to help them with like coping skills and things like that, getting a wider understanding of the world, seeing how characters in books deal with problems. I mean, all these things, and reading is more engaging sometimes than video, because not everything's explained, right?
Sure.
And that's why we could watch a movie. We could watch 2 or 3 movies on a book, and they would be different because the directors and those who adapted the book have different opinions on things. But the book, reading words actually like puts that, you build your own image in your mind and how things are done. And so you can learn a lot from it. And it's something that I think that kids aren't doing a lot of.
I think that's one of the reasons why the Harry Potter books were so, and continue to be so popular.
Particularly the people that identify as Hufflepuffs, right? Which is an empathetic group.
Sure, the fat fryer. But I agree that those kinds of books, I was a huge reader growing up. And I read all kinds of stuff, fiction and nonfiction. I never thought about that till just now. The input or impact that can have.
Yeah, there was a gap in my life where I didn't do a lot of reading, and I wasn't very empathetic during that period. I've gotten back to doing a lot of reading, and I feel like I'm understanding myself and life a little bit more, and I hope I'm a little bit nicer than I used to be.
Well, I didn't know you before, but I would say you're very nice and very compassionate person now. So keep reading.
So I appreciate that.
Well, I guess the last thing is, again, one of the biggest emotions that we struggle with is grief. And grief comes, you and I, we think of grief of the loss of a loved one. But grief comes, especially for kids, way differently. Grief can be like, when my best friend growing for a couple of years anyway, his name was Chris Dunphy, when he moved to West Virginia, that was a huge loss for me.
Sure.
And that was grief. And what was I going to do? Well, who's going to be my new best friend?
Right.
And my parents talked me through this. The loss of a pet is a huge deal, especially if they've grown up with this pet. And so helping a child, address grief, maybe you're moving from this neighborhood to another town, another state. You're losing your school friends because you're moving. Well, that's grief. As a parent, we can help kids process this and how to handle these emotions because they've got them.
Sure.
And so being able to help them address these issues. And then, of course, as they get older, I think I was in 7th grade when my first grandparent passed away.
Yeah.
And being able to have my parents explain what's happening was really good for me. And so that as I got older and I lost ultimately all of my grandparents, I was able to deal with that. And then, of course, grief of losing a job. Crying out loud.
Yeah, I think this is a really important skill, and I think it goes along with anger because the anger is a part of the grief process.
Yes.
But I mean, as you get older, you're going to run into more and more grief and anger situations, and you have to deal with them, and you have to be able to snap back from it and kind of move on as fast as you can. But it's a slow process typically, right? So, obviously, there's some grief that's going to take longer than others, right? Like if you lose a very, very close, person, that's different than, somebody it was an acquaintance, 15 years ago. So that's going to be different, right? But the bottom line is you're going to lose people. You're going to lose relationships. You're going to lose things. I mean, as we get older, I have noticed that the contacts list in my phone, which I never delete anybody, is increasingly, there's increasing numbers of people that are no longer living in my contacts list. And I just hope that I never get a phone call from somebody at that number because it would be really strange.
Yes.
But, I haven't deleted them.
No.
And, I don't know why that is. I mean, I probably go into a whole session on that, but, I think I'm just lazy.
Maybe, but I'm the same way.
But, in part, that takes an action of like, okay, that person's gone. And maybe you want to remember them a little longer, but that's all part of the grief process, right? And it can take a long time, and it can be drawn out, and it's not always like debilitating, but children need to learn how to go through that. And for them, it might be, my phone is broken.
Yeah. And it's my favorite shirt. I mean, every parent calls it something different, but you got that little whoopee, whether it's, with stuffed animal or a blanket, whatever you have that, trying to help a child break the habit of carrying that everywhere. Again, it's loss for them. And that's our job as a parent, as an adult, to help them through this, because in doing so, we're improving their emotional quotients, their emotional intelligence, to help them become, again, at the end of the day, that fully functioning, healthy, active adult that we want all kids to become as they head into, move from adolescence to early adulthood.
Yeah, I'm not an expert. You are. But I perceive this as, grief just seems to me to be, we all hate change, but grief seems to connect, for me anyway, to almost a loss of security. Like, things are not the same, and I can't control stuff. And, that's troublesome. And we need to understand and be able to deal with the fact that sometimes we can't control them.
And again, that's our role as adults to help. And it's, I don't know, it's tough. We are role models to children. I know that Charles Barkley likes to say time and again, I'm not a role model. Well, you don't get to choose who you're a role model for.
Sure.
And
he took me out of his 5, so whatever. I'm sure I was never in it.
So anyway, I'm glad you wanted to talk about this, because these are big things that even as an adult, you and I know these things, but it's always nice to have as a reminder, that help our children process their emotions, no matter how minimal they are to us. They are big to the child at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee you that this week something will happen to me that I will overreact to.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure probably later today.
I will think of this conversation, because we do it. And I hope that others will have that same experience. I mean, not that, we're experts. I mean, you are. I'm not a
pure expert yet, but getting there.
It's one of those things that, whatever we listen to or whatever we can read that would just give us a little bit of help when it's needed.
Yeah.
If you store that stuff up. And I think that's why reading for children is important, right? Like, they reflect on those things. They come back to it. I remember that in that book, that character, how he dealt with loss. I think I can do that, in the same way. And so they can learn from that. So it's so important to read, for everybody. I wish more people would do it.
Amen.
All right.
Well, thanks. I didn't know where we were going when we started, but I liked where we finished.
I mean, it usually comes out okay. And if it doesn't, we can edit it to make it happen.
I'm a free flowing, free thinking individual. Don't always know what I'm going to say until I say it. So,
Hey, we're always looking for ideas too. So, there's ways to shout out to us, liking and comments and emails that we post with this. I mean, feel free to reach out because, and share this with your friends.
Absolutely.
We're just trying to reach whoever. Nobody's making money on this. So, but we'd like to be, as helpful as we can be.
So until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See ya.
Bye-bye.